do these workshops in our community is, one, I love this community. I want it to be as healthy as possible. And we have probably the best outdoor facilities in the world, and I want everybody to be able to use them for as long as they want to. Okay, so my goal with each and every one of you that's here and on the video is to challenge you. And I really want to challenge the way that you think about your health. Because in our culture, what we have is called a sick care model of health. And I say that because when are we taught to go see the doctor?
We're sick.
We're sick, right? When we already have pain, disability, injury, diagnosis, disease, or worse yet, we find ourselves in the ER. That's when we're taught to take action. And the problem with that is, being in that sick care model, is that you end up in a place of fear and anger and having to make really hard decisions about your own health out of fear and anger, in a reactionary position. And we know that when we make decisions, whether they're in business or about our health out of fear and anger, we don't always make the right choice. And that can continue to cost us and send us down this spiral. So rather than wait until we get to this position of being challenged, I'd rather challenge people out in our community here and now. Challenge you to take actions, to take a different path. And that's why we have this awesome quote from Robert Frost: "Two roads diverge in a wood, and I took the one less traveled." And that has made all the difference. Okay, so today, when you think back on today, I want you to think about a pivot, a shift in what you do with your health. We all know things that we should or could be doing. And I just want you to pick one today that you'll commit to start that path, to start down a proactive position, a better health. And what I've learned in doing this for the past decade is that to get out of that sick care model, we have to do that in a proactive environment. We can't wait until we're in crisis, and we have to make decisions. We have to do that ahead of time. Okay, so that's what we're going to cover today, and I'm excited to be doing that. So I'm going to start off with a quiz. Of all the countries in all the world, can you guys guess which country spends the most on their health care? United States, that's right. So we spend $2 trillion a year. Okay, and a chiropractor once, I heard him speak about this. If we were to count seconds to 1 million, it would take 3 days. If we were to count seconds to 3 to billion, to a billion, that would take 30 days. Counting to 1 trillion is in the neighborhood of 300 years. So we're talking about a lot longer. So in terms of this, how much money we're spending on healthcare, we spend more than any other country by far. You guys know, of all the countries in all the world, who takes the most pharmaceuticals? United States. So we represent 5% of the world's population. 5% in the United States. We take 50% of the pharmaceuticals produced. So if there's 2 pills made from one of the pharmaceutical companies, one goes US, the other one is chopped up into 190 other pieces and sent out. Last question. The World Health Organization ranks the health of each country. They do that, I think, every 10 years. Can you guess where we rank? United States, America. Outcomes on health. I'll throw out some numbers.
79.
79, that's a reasonable guess. Anybody else?
Maybe 25th or so.
25? 45? I'll give you guys some hints.
Out of 100?
There's 190 countries. It changes every year a little bit. There's 40 developed, what we call first world.
Maybe, I guess, we were 100.
37. 37. So, 37 out of 100. A lot of people, myself, might be hard-pressed to name 36 other countries. We're talking about places like Costa Rica, Bulgaria. I think Iceland is better than us for their outcomes. And we have the most to put per capita, per person. We outspend everyone on our health care. So, the current model is failing. The reactionary model that we're talking about, waiting until we're in crisis and taking action, waiting until things hurt, until taking action. Culturally, we're all taught to do that, but it's failing us. Each year for the last 50 years, there's been more cancer, more heart disease, more diabetes. And each year there's been more people with all three. I'm upset. The #1 cause of death and disease in our country is no longer cancer or heart disease. It's adverse reactions to prescribed medications, medical procedures, and surgeries.
Wow.
That is a wow factor. It is. And for the first time since recorded word, so 2,000 years, the CDC said that in the year 2000, our kids born past the year 2000 will not live as long as us. Shorter lifespan. For the first time, it's been climbing for 2,000 years. So, do you guys think we need more drugs and more surgeries to fix this problem? Rhetorical, silly question, right? But I also understand that sometimes with these large, faceless statistics, it can be easy to disassociate with them. It can be outside of us, not in our kitchen. But this workshop, and why I get up and teach in front of people like this out in the community, is this is about each and every one of you. Okay? Because I want to ask you all this question. You guys have already answered to some degree. Are you as healthy as you want to be? How about your family, your kids, your parents, your spouse? Are they as healthy as you want them to be? See, we all know somebody that might be struggling with their health. They've been trying different things and not getting any traction. And it's frustrating. It might be a friend, a family member, a coworker, or it might be one of you. If you're like me, you're not satisfied with the outcomes of our current healthcare system, the reactionary model. In fact, I'm frustrated, and that's why I'm doing something about it. But not just for me and my family and my clients. I want to do this also because I understand that when people come into my clinic, they're already reactionary. I want to get to them before that so they can make changes prior to suffering. So I'm excited to be here. So, before I go into helping you guys understand what we should be doing, I thought I'd tell you a little bit about myself. When you know something about the presenter, you get more out of the presentation. So, there's my wonderful, beautiful wife, Jennifer. But this predates her, this story. I was 19 years old at UC Santa Barbara, a freshman. My right ankle started to bother me. Okay, so I grew up in the same culture as all of us for the most part here. And so what I did was ignore it. Right? It bothered me for a while. I noticed I had an ankle. Right? I was like, oh, there's it. What are you doing? Kept playing. I was very athletic, playing lots of sports. But I realized the longer and harder I would play, the more sore and painful it would be. But when I was playing, I could get away with it. And after about 3, 4, or 5 months of that, it got to the point where I was limping around most of the time. So I was like, okay, probably time to take pain, suffering, injury, disability. That list. I'm part of this. I get that. So I go to the doctor. What do you think the doctor did for me?
Medication.
That's right. So over the counter, high dose, ibuprofen. I took it 3 weeks, 4 weeks, came back, no change. Went back to the doctor. What do you think he did for me then? That's right. Stronger medications. So more anti-inflammatory, Celebrex, Vioxx. You guys know anything about Vioxx? I'm still here, which is good. But nothing happened in terms of my ankle. No change. So another month goes by and I go back. Doc, still hurts all the time. What do you think he did for me?
X-rated.
X-rated, followed by
Surgery.
recommendations for surgery.
Oh.
So, you guys there? So, I had surgery. I had a stress fracture in my ankle. So I had the surgery. I went through it. I didn't know there was any other options at that point in my life path. It was pretty intense. They had to drill. They had to pull out some things. They had to break part of my bone here to get to it. They bolted me back together, and I was laying on the couch for about 3 months, rushing around. That summer was just healing, just hanging out. At the end of that period of time, I started to be able to walk again, move my body, get stronger. So I started working out again to try to get that strength back. Before the surgery, very strong, active individual. 3 months of doing nothing. Was I the same person? Atrophy everywhere. Not only there, but everywhere. But I didn't understand this. So I go and I'm starting to work out, and I do a squat, and my tight, weak body, I blow out my back. Relatively within a month of getting my cast and glute off. That was way worse than any ankle pain I had ever had. If you guys have ever had neck, mid-back, back pain, it's so intense. It felt like someone had stabbed me and twisted a hot knife in there. Fell to the ground, picked myself up slow. If you guys have ever done anything, you do the Frankenstein walk where nothing moves. We're very, very sensitive, very careful. If you drop something, you just call for help or forget about it until next week, right? that happened for about, so after that happened, about 5 to 7 days, I was laying on the couch. Ice pack, ibuprofen, not knowing what was going on. After about 7 days, it kind of loosens up. I felt a little better. Got back to work, got back to my life. Had a dull ache, I could deal with that. So I start going back to normal life. 3 weeks later, I'm picking up a shoe. No weight on my back, just picking up a shoe. Same exact pain. Disc pain, stabbed me in the back, fall to the ground. I was concerned now because it wasn't something weight on my back. This was like affecting my everyday life here. And I had to lay on the couch again for 5 days. If you guys know about productivity, about studying, all those types of things were out the window for 5 days. Kind of chained to that couch. So after another week or so of that, it comes back to how it was, and I'm okay, and I'm moving around, and I'm still in that culture, so I'm like, hopefully this will go away. Every month, that happened to me for about 8 months in a row, once or twice a month. And this time in my life, I realized that health was not something out there in the world that people talk about, but health was freedom. Because at that point in my life, I could not do the things that I wanted to do, and I didn't trust my body. My confidence went down, I couldn't study, my stress levels started to spiral. That affected my mood. I'm a happy-go-lucky type person, but I wasn't. You guys understand what I'm saying? There's collateral damage to when we get injured, when we lose our health. It affects us and those around us. So I went to the doctor. What do you think the doctor did?
More medication.
Medication. I had a gut reaction to that because I had just gone through that whole ordeal. 3 months of my life, pain, all that with my ankle. And now I was having this. And it was something inside of me that said, wait a second. I don't want to do that here. And then what? And then we do it here, and then we do it here, and then we do it what? Is that what my life is going to be? I can't handle that. So I had to step back from that, and I left. And I went on a path to try to figure out what was going on. Because I couldn't accept at 20 years old that was going to be it. That I was going to have no freedom, and that was my path. So I went to healthcare provider after healthcare provider after healthcare provider. And they all gave me different treatments, which didn't really help. And it wasn't until I met a chiropractor. And this chiropractor, I had been to other chiropractors. This chiropractor talked uniquely about the difference between the cause and the symptom. Because we understand that if you get rid of the symptom, but don't address the cause, it can stay there or get worse. Follow me? And I wanted to know 3-letter word. Everybody was telling me what the problem was. They said, your disc, they talked about retrolisthesis, they talked about this and that, but they didn't tell me why it was happening. And that was so frustrating. I didn't understand this at the time. I've thought a lot about that since, but that was it. I wanted to know why. Why is this happening? Not what it is. And they explained to me how the spine is set up and how when things are weak and when things are strong, how that affects your overall health. And so at that point in my life, I went on and it clicked right there. Within 10 minutes of that visit, I knew I was going to be a chiropractor. I wanted to know everything that person knew. And I began a quest to find out everything I could about health. Because what I realized in that freedom, when I talk about that, I didn't want to lose this and then end up correcting that or fixing that or patching that up to have cancer or Alzheimer's or diabetes. I didn't want that either. I wanted my health and I wanted my freedom for as long as I could possibly have. And so I started down this quest to find out anything that would interfere with that. I studied why some people are healthy, have long, strong, awesome lives, and other people have weaker, shorter, sicker ones. And that's what I get to share. That's why I'm fired up you guys are here. So there's 3 things that I learned along my path. These are the 3 things that we're going to sum up. Your body is incredibly intelligent. Okay, we understand this innately, but we forget. You are designed to be healthy. Modern lifestyle creates disease in our body. We have to understand that. Because when we have different health goals, when we have different stressors, it's cumulative. Even if there's one bigger one, you can handle that one by addressing smaller ones to lower the whole system. We're going to talk about that. That's a unique, awesome thing that we can all do. So, your body is incredibly intelligent. Think about it. 2 half cells come together, create 1 cell. That's 9 months later, you have a human being. 2 cells, 4 cells, 8 cells, 16, 32. It's amazing. At some point along that, the cells start to differentiate and create systems that create human beings. Different systems need to talk, just like the different cells do. Different cells talk and work together to create tissues, create organs, create organ systems. But those organ systems need to communicate and talk as well. Any relationship, whether it's business to business, whether it's father to son, father or husband to wife, friends, it requires one thing to make sure that it functions properly. What is that one thing?
Communication.
You know it. Communication. We have to communicate. If we're not communicating, things are breaking down. The same thing is true for your body. Do you know which system of your body does all the communication? Most of it.
All systems.
No, but which is the one that talks to them all? That's right. The nervous system. The nervous system communicates the intelligence that runs our body. It's the first system to develop. The very first one. It functions as the air traffic controller. Think about LAX and how much activity is going on. If there's no air traffic controller for, it takes like a 5-minute coffee break, is that okay? Nobody up there? What would that do? 5 minutes at LAX? How about 30 seconds, right? Hundreds of flights coordinated all the time. Think about your body. There's trillions of reactions going on every second. This doesn't get a break, and that's why this is really unique and really amazing when you learn this. Of all the systems and all the tissues in your body, they all get replaced. So like your skin cells get replaced constantly. Your stomach lining is every 2 days. Your heart, you have a whole new heart. The cells have all changed over within about 4 months. Isn't that wild? Your bones take about 7 years to get a whole new skeleton. But your nervous system, never regenerates, never replaces itself. It's on when you're born and it stays on the rest of your life. So I learned how important my nervous system was to make sure that it's protected. With all that intelligence, we sometimes forget how amazing it is. When you cut your finger, it heals. How many times, you guys know how many times you breathe in a day? 20,000 times. How many times did you think about it today? Right? If we're really stressed out, maybe think about it once. You pump a couple thousand gallons of blood. You don't think about a drop usually, because that system's always working. It's always keeping us functioning. You are all unique and brilliant. It's amazing life. But what we're taught through 80 commercials an hour is that our body is dumb, it makes mistakes, you break down, and you need things to help support you. If you have headaches, take this. If you have stomach aches, take this. If you have low energy, take this. If you have hot, if you can't go to bed at night, take this. Do you guys know what I'm talking about? 80 of those an hour, airwaves, coming over to tell us that our body is stupid and it needs support like that. We need to understand that we're designed to be healthy. There's a difference between common and normal. Normal is healthy. Common is now, unfortunately, diabetes. Common is now allergies, asthma, indigestion. All of those things are common, but they're not normal. Normal is healthy. You have to understand this concept. It's hard in our modern day world. We're talking about. Health is the natural state of the body, so long as there's no interference. Okay. Think about it. When it's hot, like that, can you hear a little bit from me? What does your body do? You perspire, you sweat to lose heat so that you can stay regulated. Is that smart or stupid? Incredible. Otherwise, we heat stroke and die. I don't know what that. It's cold, what do? Really cold, we shiver, right? So all these types of things are happening all the time. Normal's healthy. I want to hammer this point home because once we understand this, then we can start asking why. Because if normal's healthy, then if we're not normal, we ask why, not what. You guys follow me? Okay. It's my dog. Dog.
What's his name?
Big Millen.
Miller.
Big Millen.
He is a boxer. Yeah.
He's a boxer who we rescued him. He had his ears chopped.
Wow.
But he's a super awesome guy. He's always at the office. He helps people go for walks. So if McMillan was here, hypothetically, or one of these awesome dogs here, and they started to vomit on the carpet, wherever, what would you guys think about the dog?
I feel bad for
I feel
him.
bad for it. But why, if we thought, why would he be vomiting?
Ate something wrong.
Ate something wrong, right? That's called a toxicity. Putting something into our body that isn't good for us. Because we know that McMillan should not be throwing up. That's not normal. So if we start doing something abnormal, we ask why. Probably ate something. It's toxicity. if any of these plants in here started turning green, yellow, leaves falling off, what would you guys think about that?
It's dying.
Dying.
It's normal.
Really.
Cycle of life.
So, what would we think in terms of
Not healthy, not healthy.
So what would we think about it? How can we make it healthier?
Give it water.
Water.
Find out what's wrong.
Exactly. You're asking those are top level questions. Make sure it's getting some sunlight, some nutrients, check the soil, those types of things. Because we know innately out in nature, plants are supposed to be healthy. Animals are supposed to be healthy. We forget that we are animals. We're part of that system. We're supposed to be healthy. The Great Lakes back in the 70s, they started pulling out fish with cancerous tumors. You can see this is pretty gross here. We've got some big major tumors on this fish's face. Are fish supposed to have tumors on their face?
No.
That's not normal. Fish are supposed to be healthy. Okay, so what do you think was going on?
Pollution.
Toxicity, right? We get it for animals. So this is a crazy analogy, but what if we, instead of trying to find out why, we just treated the symptoms here? Set the fish up for little chemotherapy, little surgeries, raise money to do those types of things. Is that ridiculous?
Different tumors.
Right, different types of tumors, right? We're not asking why. For the fish, we get it. For human beings, we think we're different. One thing responsible for 75% of disease, and that's all chronic disease. That's cancer, autoimmune, diabetes, all this stuff that robs our freedom. You guys guess what it is?
Polluted water.
That's part of it. Food, that's part of it too. Think bigger.
Stress.
There it is. Stress. And that's why this workshop is titled Stress. But we think of stress as emotional. And stress is not only emotional, it has a physical and a chemical component. We said, toxicity, foods, that's the chemical. Drugs, chemical. Physical, how much activity are we getting? How do we take care of our spine? How do we take care of our body, our frame? Are we moving it regularly? And how do we handle the thoughts in our head? Are we positive, proactive? Do we respond or do we react? Because what I've learned on my journey of the last 15 or so years of studying health is that each of these decisions compiles over time. As we know with anything in success, it takes little steps over time getting bigger and bigger. You guys understand that, right? It's not a one-track thing, solve the day with this one thing. It's a consistent application of good, healthy lifestyle habits over time. These are the 3 stress categories. Thoughts, toxins, traumas. It's actually in the literature in 1895 by the originator of chiropractic talk about these 3 things. How we respond to this. This is our modern world, right? We have bills, we have arguments, we have all kinds of traffic if we have ever lived in LA. That's stressful. We have foods, we have medications, we have convenience foods. It is harder to not eat sugar than eat sugar. It's everywhere. It's as addictive as heroin. Except for you don't have to go out in the back alley and hire some guy to do something. You just go to the grocery store. It's everywhere. This is constantly bombarding our bodies. And then we have traumas and postures. Hugely detrimental to our overall health is our posture. Most of us, unfortunately, spend the majority of time sitting. I do a whole workshop on movement because that's required. But 30 years of our American life are spent in the chair. We have a picture of an electric chair when we talk about that. Sitting is the new smoking. Research shows that it shortens our life. So you guys take a break. Everybody stand up real quick. Do that right here. There, a little stretch. And that's the cool thing is that a lot of these stress-reducing things, they don't have to be huge. That is enough. We can sit back down. We just have to change our position. We just have to change our position. Okay, this always comes up when we're getting close to the end here. What about genes and family history? This usually comes up at some point. We have questions. Well, what about family history? My dad had this, my grandma had that. You know what I'm saying? We're taught that. If we don't understand why, this is an easy go-to. We have to understand that our genes are exactly what this is. Gene, you know what this is? This is a blueprint for a dream home. Now, if we follow the blueprints, and we use really terrible materials, like Elmer's glue and balsa wood and plastic, are we going to ever come up with a place we want to live in?
Temporary.
shelter maybe, not our dream home. Right? We got to use the best quality supplies, the best quality materials. Okay? Otherwise, you can use different materials to try to build the same house. Obviously, they have different blueprints, but still. So what we need to understand is that our blueprints, each and every one of us, and 99% of people, are designed for a healthy, happy individual. It's what we put in, the foods, the environmental stressors, the postures that create our body, follow our blueprint. This hammers this point home. This is the New England Journal of Medicine. This is a study on adoptive kids. Okay? What do we know about adoptive kids? Parents, adoptive kids, do they share any genes? They don't. Check this out. When one of the adoptive parents died of cancer before the age of 50, the rate of cancer death in the adopted children of these parents rose by 500%. That's a wow factor. That's not 5%, 10%, 500%. What do adoptive kids, and all kids for that matter, share with their parents?
Environment.
Lifestyle. We learn how to eat, we learn how to move our bodies, our postures, our habits, how we respond to stress, our exercise habits. A lot of that stuff comes from our parents. The new science of epigenetics reveals how the choices that you make can change the genes of you and your kid. You have control. When I learned this is what I was looking for, because I didn't want to fall victim and lose my freedom. This is average life expectancy versus genetic life expectancy. The green up here goes to 120 years. You guys know that we have inside of us the capacity to live 120 years, each of us?
You're halfway there.
Right? We start talking about old age at half point. So like dogs, 20 years, the giant sequoia, a couple hundred years, genetic potential within a species. Human beings is around 120. This is what we see happening. People living, the average life expectancy in the United States is about 75, give or take. We're missing a third. So why? Again, we come back to the big S word.
How do they tell that you have 120-year genetic capacity?
I don't know. Good question. All I know is that it is. But we can find out. Good question. Rocks in your backpack. Imagine you're born into water. You got some floaties on. I drew this. You got floaties on and you got a backpack and that cape. Okay. So, you got in those floaties, you've got a small leak that will last 120 years. Okay? So that's your life expectancy. You've got 120 years worth of air. Stress, emotional stress, job, relationships, bills, how we handle them. Certain people handle Nelson Mandela prison much better than others, right? It's how we handle those stressors, not necessarily always what happens to us. Whether we sit for work, whether we have enough physical activity, whether we move our bodies, whether we check our spine, whether we eat the right foods, everything that we do the wrong against a stressful way adds rocks to our backpack, and what happens to our time? Shortens. That's why we're getting here instead of here. And this is why when I asked and I started in the beginning, I want you to think of one thing. Because that's how it starts. It's one thing. Maybe it's, I'm going to start drinking more water because I'm short. Maybe it's, I'm going to start standing up and doing exercises more often. Whatever it is. These are the rocks. How you think, how you eat, how you move, how you take care of your frame. This is what I've learned, and this is what I share with my clients. Last slide. Most powerful. Where are you? Illness, wellness continuum. The far right, we have premature death. Unfortunately, a lot. High-level wellness. What's unique about this is that we don't find ourselves in symptoms or signs until we've lost 50%. You have to damage a tissue more than 50% usually before it starts to communicate, hey, there's a problem. Organ function decreases 50% before the problem. If someone has a heart attack, were they healthy the day before? What if they felt okay? Not healthy, right? So you can go through this before we start. This is what's scary. This is about our culture. Is because we are reactionary. We start here usually. Actually, for me, I was already starting to be disabled with my ankle. So we start there. So every one of us lives on this chart, one place or another, and we're headed in one direction or another. I think there's two lives out there for each and every one of us, life of probability and the life of possibility. Life of probability says if you keep doing what you've been doing, keep doing what everybody else is doing, you're probably going to get what everybody else is doing. You get. The life of possibility says if you take different action steps, different coaches, different strategies, different consistent behaviors, you will get a completely different outcome. So I belong to a large, growing network of chiropractors and health and wellness providers that are helping people figure out what's possible for them. And rather than take the broad spectrum approach of, you've got a headache, take this, you've got to figure out where your stressors are coming from. Are they chemical? Are they emotional? Are they physical? Find out what's your challenges, your health traumas, so we can figure out what's possible for you. So, I'll invite any of you here and on the video to a consultation in our office and exams. So typically to figure out what is possible for someone requires consultation, exams, we do thermography to check for inflammation, we do a postural analysis to see where there's stress on your nervous system, and exams and a health history. And we provide a report letting you know what's possible. Typically that's $250 for being inviting us here today. We'll do that for $47.
Wow, that's fantastic.
The reason we do that, two things. There are barriers to entry to get us out of the sick care and into true health care. One of them is cost. So we remove that to some degree. The second one is time, especially for busy entrepreneurs. A great chiropractor once said that procrastination is the thief of health. So that offer is obviously good for today only. You can set that up in the next 3 weeks, your consultation. So I'm happy to be here. I'm happy to help you guys out, answer more questions, and Josh can help schedule anybody who's interested in it. Thanks for taking the time to learn and get energized.
Thank you.
Questions?
Yes, please.
So did you ever find out what was the cause of the ankle?
The ankle, yes. It was coming from my spine. My low spine was a problem before I hurt it. The hurting it was just because it was even more weak, even more.
And where's your lower spine a problem? Did you have to build up your muscles in your lower back? Or?
Yeah, so the original cause of my ankle, best as I can tell because I can't go back in time and evaluate myself, but after thinking about this, because they both did the same number of steps. I didn't have more traumas to this one to that one. The stress fracture comes from more force going through it over time. But I was doing the same things left and right. It's not like I was doing the triple jump. So that means that it has to come from an imbalance. So I was putting more force to the right side than the left side.
Okay.
When I learned what I know now, I had issues in my lower spine that were contributing to an imbalance. So they corrected the symptom to some degree. Still there's problems with it and let the body heal. But this was just waiting for the next thing. It got weaker over that period of time, and I heard it that way. But it was already underlying. There was weakness in my spine to begin with to cause that. And that's why the spine and the nervous system is the foundation. Just as important as every other one. There's no one that's more important than that. Does that make any sense?
Yeah, totally.
I have a question. Do you have some general recommendations? I mean, I know some doctors feel strongly about no sugars, and others say, you know, you should just eat well 90% of the time, and you shouldn't have ice cream when you want it. Or do you also have recommendations like coffee, no coffee, caffeine, no caffeine, any other kind of Dr. Nick's commandments?
Yeah, I'm going to go to this slide. Okay, that's a great question. Because we live in a real world, right? Real world's not perfect. We don't have the best available options all the time. But here's what we have to understand is that no matter what the decision, it pushes us. Every decision we make, whether it's postural, whether it's exercise, whether it's food, whether it's how we respond to a situation, pushes us one way or the other. Every single decision. There is no neutral decision. Okay? So if we are deficient in water, that pushes us that way. If we're sufficient, it pushes us that way. It goes with all nutrients, it goes with all foods, all exercise, either one way or the other. But obviously, I'm not perfect either. No one is. So it's trying to do the majority of what's possible, understanding that every food choice that goes in pushes you one way or the other. So if you think about it in wealth terms, which health and wealth are very synonymous because you can create health just like you can create wealth. You want to think about your health as a savings account. This is what I usually do. I think about how many deposits am I doing, how many withdrawals can I make? And you got to make more deposits than withdrawals. So if you're eating really well all week and you're exercising and moving, well, you're going to do much better with whatever you choose to do on the weekend. Does that make sense?
Yep, makes a lot of sense.
So you got to think that's really how I think about it. And you really want to, it's not you want to have leftover, you're trying to build something to survive on when you're retired, you know, in terms of your health. You got to be putting in so that we don't have, I mean, medicine's done an awesome job with increasing the quantity, but not the quality. And that's because we're withdrawing, and then we're getting, in a sense, handout. That's what medicine is giving us to keep us going, versus having something to reserve on. I've never said it that way before, I like that.
Great. Any other?
Well, thank you very much. Thanks, Josh. That's